This one's wife. Women, get in the kitchen. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. You are familiar, you will probably say too familiar, with the well-worn tale that this one's wife repeatedly rolls out to let everybody know about her feminist credentials. That how, when aged just 11, she took on the might of multinational Procter & Gamble and told them they were very naughty for running a sexist advertisement, causing them to change it. We all know that this was actually a class project, but that doesn't matter to the living saint that this is this one's wife. She is the only person that actually brought that into being. After all, she is the most magnificent, the most wonderful, the most empathic human being that is on the planet, at least in her own mind. This was character trait acquisition, whereby she took something that was a joint enterprise and applied it as if it was her sole doing. She did so, driven by her narcissism, to triangulate people with this story as part of her facade management. Look at me, I'm a kind person. Look at me, I took on Procter & Gamble. Look at me, I've been a feminist since at least I was 11. There's a revision of history, there's character trait acquisition, and there's repeated bringing up the past. Various aspects of the narcissist in action and her manipulations. She did it again not so long ago when she bought a place on the panel at South by Southwest. Longtime news anchor Katie Couric invited her to talk about the tale, most likely taking the piss out of her, thinking, we've heard it so many times before, I wonder if she'll go into it again, or will she just say, oh, everybody's heard it, I don't need to talk about it. But she took the bait because, of course, she's pretty simple. She stated, of course, I was about 11 years old, and I had seen a commercial on TV for a dishwashing liquid that said, women all over America are fighting greasy pots and pans. The mum of two began. The boys in my class at the time said, yeah, that's where women belong, in the kitchen. And at 11, I just found that infuriating, so I stamped my cloven hooves. It's funny to look back at it now, because that was before social media, where you had a reach that was so much greater. It was just an 11-year-old with pen and paper. Forgetting, of course, that it was a class. She continued to state, but it just goes to show that if you know that there is something wrong and you are using your voice to advocate in the direction of what is right, that can really land and resonate and make a huge change for a lot of people. Your voice is not small, it just needs to be heard. And thus, she trotted out that character trait acquired tale for the purposes of assertion of control over that audience at South by Southwest, to draw fuel by way of their responses and to manage her facade. Thus, she didn't like the fact that boys said, yeah, that's where women belong, in the kitchen. Don't have views, get back in the kitchen and make me my dinner. Sorry, who are you to have an opinion? You should be slaving over a beef lasagna and then get around to scrubbing the toilet. That's them told. So clearly, this one's wife, being the ardent feminist that she is, doesn't agree with women being seen to be in the kitchen, that she didn't like the fact that boys said, get in the kitchen. She found that infuriating. Thus, this clearly, as a central aspect to her life, something which clearly matters to her so much, perhaps something that she keeps as watchword to her heart, results in the necessity of her saying, hey, girls, we don't belong in the kitchen. I didn't like it when 11-year-old boys told me that women belong in the kitchen, so I fought against it. And I fought against this ever since, so much so that I've recently launched a lifestyle brand that's all about being in the kitchen, and there was some video footage of me being in the kitchen. Yes, well done, this one's wife. You've done it again. Demonstrate what a hypocrite you are. Demonstrating that there isn't a feminist bone in your body, that your narcissism just takes hold of the concept of feminism and utilises it for the purposes of the pursuit of the prime aims. Next to nobody accepts you're a feminist anyway. They realise that the only reason you've got anywhere in life is because of men, whether it's Trevor Engelson, Corey the chef, Marcus Anderson, your father, and of course old Ginger Bollocks. That you repeatedly claim that you advocate for women, yet you don't actually like women because you see them as competition, as I've explained earlier. And hilariously, there you are, espousing your supposed feminist credentials by fighting against the notion that women belong in the kitchen by creating a lifestyle brand which is based upon being in the kitchen. So much so, you utilise footage of yourself in the kitchen whilst you were creating a love potion to keep Harry in a fog of confusion. It is hilarious, the short-sightedness of this woman, but it isn't a surprise. This is the way that her narcissism works. And for those that think that she's strategic and that she's calculated, she isn't. She makes gaffe after gaffe after gaffe as a consequence of the necessity of the assertion of control in the moment, which her narcissism is very good at doing. And remember, the narcissist always gets that control. Always. Either directly through a hoover, indirectly through smearing or triangulation, or by withdrawal. That control is always obtained. But with her, whilst that control might be obtained, it then results in a collateral consequence, which creates more ridicule, more derision in relation to her. And here we have another example of her repeatedly using the tale about taking on Procter & Gamble, something that she only utilised earlier this month, and then lo and behold, in the same month, contradicts herself, unsurprisingly, by being back in the kitchen. Thus, this is how far she has come. From being supported by her father to now being supported by old Ginger Bollocks, and going back to being in the kitchen despite saying that she's infuriated by the notion of women being there. Point this out to her and her narcissism will reject it. Point this out to her and she will deny that she's back in the kitchen, but rather she's just using the kitchen as a means to making an income. What? You're selling jams and buttery spreads to be put over Harry's nuts and kitchen utensils as part of your lifestyle brand. Is that not buying back in the kitchen? Now, there's nothing wrong with someone being in the kitchen. And of course, she might have concerns in relation to being seen that way, naturally, because it's a threat to control. But once again, she demonstrates her hypocrisy, her contradictory nature, by repeatedly using a tale, railing against women being in the kitchen, and then setting up a lifestyle brand which is basically based upon women being in the kitchen. I'm H.T. Tudor. Thank you for listening.